We are in middle of over here. It's on page 258. We're holding where it says "Vapizeh Yuvan." Okay, so the Nekudah that the Rebbe is explaining here is how do we bring Mashiach? Okay. What's the right thing to do to prepare for Mashiach? So you ask a person that, I'm not talking about a person in the street that's not familiar with the Rebbe's Siches Chulu. You ask a person that's learning the Rebbe's Siches and knows and was sat by the Rebbe's Verbrengens, what's that man to bring Mashiach? You have to go on with Tzayim, you have to speak to people about Shabbat Mitzvahs B'nai Noyach, you have to say Ad Masai, and you have to have Kavanah Samach David Avdo Chavas Achzenai Neinu B'chulu B'chulu, and it's all true, 100% true. But in this Sikha, the Rebbe goes one step deeper. Not only of something which is similar to, in nature to what Mashiach is going to do in the world, but we also have to think of how we're preparing for Mashiach himself. Mashiach himself has nothing to do with his influence in the world. That's a later Teitzah. The Ikar of Mashiach is Mashiach. It's a preparation for that. So the Nekudah that the Rebbe explained there is...
Yeah, and why is that? If in fact it's nothing to do with what Mashiach has to do, what is that?
We have to do something that will trigger the very arrival of Mashiach himself.
And what does that do for us? What is this bus of Adam doing? Except he's going to do things. The world's going to change. Yes. He decided himself, he's saying, well, he decided himself.
Yeah.
So what do we need that for?
See, the only reason we need a bus of Adam to be Mashiach is for him to interact and to change the world.
Right.
The truth of the Eibishter as is, Yechida, Yachid, for that you don't need a bus of Adam.
Right.
It's a good question. But apparently
maybe it's a stupid question.
No, it's a good question, I think. But apparently, even just for the first Nekudah, which is to reveal the real Achdus of Hashem, the oneness, Yechida, Yachid in the highest level, for that it's also necessary to have a bus of Adam. When it says, Mashiach comes, we'll see the ultimate truth of the Eibishter of the world by people, how they'll recognize it, how Teva of the world will change, how there'll be peace in the world and all other beautiful things in the world. Just this, the revelation of the truth of the Eibishter, that requires a bus of Adam that should embody and personify that. We're looking at Mashiach, instead of looking at Mashiach as someone that's going to give influence. That's step 2. But the first thing when you look at Mashiach is Yachid, Yechida, an existence that has no identity. That having the existence of the Eibishter that is embodied in a bus of Adam in this way is the revelation. That itself is the revelation where the purpose of Mashiach is not for you or for the world. Punkt verkehrt. The purpose of your existence is to be connected to Mashiach and to the Eibishter. You have to. The Rebbe says the same thing. So how do we prepare to this? So the Rebbe says the same point regarding Torah mitzvahs. Instead of viewing the concept of Torah mitzvahs, that it's to illuminate the world in order to connect the world to the Eibishter. There's an existence, and now we have to figure out how we're connecting this world to Hashem. Mitzvah, tzafsa v'chibur, Torah illuminates, all true. But the Rebbe says, then there's something else in Torah. Here the Rebbe said that we learned this before. The Rebbe said very strong words. If you learn, just a moment, if you learn Torah leidasamai sashiyason, that's still not the Torah lishma. because you're learning Torah for the guidance regarding how to fulfill the mitzvah. Even if you're learning Torah in order to fulfill the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, it's also not the ultimate lishma. It's a big chiddush. Why? Because it's still learning Torah to fulfill something. Meaning there's an existence, and I have a mitzvah that if there's a mitzvah, there's a mitzvah, there's a commander, and there's an individual that got commanded, and you're learning Torah with that objective to fulfill the mitzvah. Then there's something else. You learn Torah simply stepping away from me, stepping to the Eibishter. I'm learning Torah because the Torah is l'shema Torah atzma, because I want to step away from my objective, no emtzoi, not trying to gain anything. Not even to fulfill the mitzvah of Talmud Torah. That learning of Torah is the true lishma and ultimate mitzvahs. Not necessarily the mitzvahs that are relevant today. Just all of Torah. And you're learning to know the Eibishter's Torah. Not because I'm going to take the God and have to learn or anything else I have to know to do my life. But because it's the Eibishter's Torah. The expression, the full expression of who the Eibishter is. That is the limit of that Torah Lishma. To the second point, so when people always say, and it's true, that to prepare for Mashiach, we have to make a big shturim in the world about Mashiach. Yeah, but the first step of preparing for Mashiach is the Rambam. That's the preparation for the first step of Mashiach. Yes, we have to get it straight. The first step is the limud Rambam, to learn Torah on that level, and then the second step is whatever we have to do in the world to prepare for Mashiach. I think this is a matter they're going to call that. I can't repeat it. We learned some time. I can repeat it again and again. And every time I repeat it, it's like, oh wow, it's a whole new thing.
It's different than just learning Torah to be one with the Eibishter. You want to know everything about him, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not 100% sure if I get the nuance of what you're trying to say.
But when you learn Torah, you're one with the Eibishter. I'm sure you're one with the Eibishter. Eibishter and you.
That's limud Torah Lishma.
Okay, but now we're saying you have to learn the Rambam to accomplish that. What does that change?
Because in the limud Rambam, you have everything, the shleimus of the Ratzon of the Eibishter.
Right.
Whatever else.
That's what you explained last week.
Right.
It's not about later semester.
Correct. It's the Taryag mitzvahs, which is the shleimus of the Ratzon of the Eibishter.
In other words, therefore, you're completely bounded to him in every possible way.
In the deepest way. That's that. Taryag mitzvahs Torah is the shleimus hagili of the Eibishter.
But is that in every possible way? But do you have the same depth in every situation? Or do you not get the whole depth without knowing every way?
You learn
you learn the Eibishter, you want the Eibishter.
Learn Rambam. That's what it is. Learn Rambam. That's what we're talking about.
I just saw the other day, one of the things
I'm sure you'll,
Then go Mashiach, that a Mashiach will elo behes chadas.
Yeah.
And the Rebbe Taisha behes chadas means not for ruchnitic purposes, not for gashan, behes chadas, just for the sake of Mashiach.
Yeah, so it's connected to this Nakoda. This is the Nakoda that I was talking about, yeah.
I never saw it before.
Interesting shot, yeah.
So the thing that we mentioned before, that the Indian to recognize Mashiach just for who he is, which is the Yiddish of Nefesh,
right?
Which is an embodiment of Hashem.
Yes.
But that's something that not everybody has shaykhs to, only people that are on that level of understanding.
Yechida is not related to understanding.
Yechida
is not related to understanding in any way. Every single Yid has
recognition of that.
Every Yid has a nitzutz of Yechida in him. At the core of every Yid's neshama, who is he? Doesn't have really any identity of his own. The neshama is a chelik elikam imal mamish, and you could look at the seichel of the neshama, the midas of the neshama, but then you go to the pintel of the neshama. That's the Yechida. The Yechida, which is ready to be Moshe Nefesh, and it's instinctive. There's no das, there's no thinking. It's just the very essence.
What was the opening point that we had over here before? You mentioned that in Mashiach that's going to be revealed. His Yechida Shebenefesh.
Mashiach, which is the Yechida, will be Megala, the Yechida in every Yid. This Yechida that exists within every single Yid
Or he's going to be Makal.
We don't consciously function by that yechida.
No.
Every person naturally thinks, why am I doing this? What's the reason? What am I gaining? Even beruchnis. Wants to gain beruchnis. We do things based on our feelings, on our hergish. You're doing it with heart. You're doing it with mind, with cup. Different tefanim. There's this cup mentioned. There's heart people. But to do something from completely, purely from the pintel of the neshama yechidish benefesh, that's the sheikh is going to be megala that nakoda within every single yid.
In other words, we're all attached to the Yahida Klal.
Correct. Yechida klaus, yeah.
On the Shama
Right.
for its entirety, at all levels,
Right.
attached to the top.
Correct. Okay, let's try. Let's see the continued continuation of the sikha here. Just to remind you again, the last point that we learned here about busha, embarrassment. So the Rebbe here brought that a yid that says Eid Sheker, we warn the Eidim when we say you're going to become an embarrassment. Why? So the Rebbe says because the entire existence of the neshama in this world is to be Eidim, witnesses, to reveal the Eibishter's existence. When one says a lie, he's doing the exact opposite of what his entire entity is, to be the witness revealing the truth of the Eibishter. And therefore it becomes an embarrassment. What's the pshat embarrassment? You see, embarrassment is something where the person loses his whole standing. He loses his entire feeling of worth in this world. You could harm someone, you could injure him, you could take away his parnasa, you could, all that brought it is different things. Nezek, tsar, rippe, sheves. Boishes is something else. Boishes is when a person completely loses his whole self-worth. That's very deep. Therefore, over here, when someone says a lie, it's taking away his whole worth of existence, that he's supposed to be aid MS, and instead he's saying aid sheker. So the Rebbe connects this back now to this Inyan of learning Rambam, which is the idea of kol ha-Torah kula. So v'apizeh yuvan gam b'negei le'inyanenu sha'ilui. The what?
I don't understand why it has to be cold.
Kol ha-Torah. Let's see. The Rebbe is going to explain right now. So it says b'negei le'inyanenu sha'ilui the ba'abiti al kol mitzvaysecha. What is the point of learning all Tayag Mitzvah Satayr in the Rambam hu lo yevish? Because that will remove embarrassment, which means as follows: Ha'inyan the Atamedai, the fact that Yidden are referred to as Hashem's witnesses, which means my Yehudi hu edus ala Kadosh Baruch Hu. A Yid is a witness testifying on Hashem's existence. B'shleimus, where is that completely fulfilled? Why the idea is halach is the Chol HaMitzvahs. That's only when the Yid has the knowledge of all mitzvahs. What are the mitzvahs? It's the Eibish's will. Shuhu u'ritzayna yechad, and Hashem and His will are all one. Harei al yidei sheritzayna yizbarach. The Taryag mitzvahs shuratzen echad kanal nimtza begilui b'yidiyasa shel ha'adam. If a person has the knowledge of all 630 mitzvahs, which in essence are one nekuda, they're the essence of the Eibishter, hine al yidei zehu meyid b'shleimus ala kadosh baruch hu. Then the existence of the Yid is expressing fully what the Eibishter is about, so to speak. the Ratzon Shleimut, the Bahabiti al Kol Mitzvah, the Sefer Mishnah Torah, that you learn all Taryag mitzvahs. Dafka this pasuk the Rambam quotes, which means, one second, let's just see the Til Sifta Zayin, the conclusion of the Inyan. If a Yid knows all the halachas that are relevant to fulfill today, so technically, he's not going to be missing anything in his knowledge of what he needs to know how to do a mitzvah. He's not going to have any nezek, using the expression said before, nezek, tzar, rippe, shavis. Is he going to be in trouble in any way? No, he's going to know how to put on tefillin, he's going to know how to daven, he's going to know all the halachas, everything. There's nothing that is lacking. But what is he lacking? There's still something at his core that he hasn't really fully justified his existence in this world. And if that's the case, there's a concept of embarrassment which touches the core of the person's worth. Where is he lacking? Not in doing a mitzvah, but he's lacking in his identity. You are supposed to be a witness, expressing the Eibishter's existence. How do you express the Eibishter's existence? Through his mitzvahs, through his will. So if you don't have the knowledge of all of his mitzvahs, then in that you're lacking. So therefore, he's missing the ikir in yana inyan da'ata meidai, being the real witness of the Eibishter. So therefore, v'dafke oz lo yevish. Only when you learn all of Taryag mitzvahs, then that removes this embarrassment. Ba'abiti al kol mitzvah. When you have all mitzvahs, so then not only will you not fall into a issue, a problem, a question, a suffix, how do I do this mitzvah or that mitzvah? That's not what Limud Rambam is about. Limud Rambam is about getting to the core of the person. Who am I? There's the Eibishter, it's like Yisrael, Hayraisa, Kuchebrichu, Kolachad. That point where you take the three entities and they're really one. They're all one thing. When could you say Kolachad? If you have the whole Torah. If you have a part of the Torah, or you're only using a lower aspect of Torah as it relates to mitzvahs, so then it's not Yisrael, Hayraisa, Kuchebrichu. It has to be all three. Yisrael, B'Shleimus, Hayraisa, B'Shleimus, Kuchebrichu, B'Shleimus. Only when you learn Rambam properly, all Taryag mitzvahs, then you're a real aid, and then lo yevish. That removes embarrassment.
And properly means?
You notice I put in that word properly.
Yes. What does properly mean? Most of us don't
understand that
remember
Rambam.
two things about Tum of Caleb, etc., etc.
It depends. It depends how you learn it, and depends on which round you're going. If you learn it the first time, the second time, the third time. Every time you learn a little bit more. You know something more.
There is we're demanding an accomplishment
Yeah.
in the learning itself. Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Sifta Zayin. Apikalanal Yom Gam. This also explains Shakesha, the Siyam Sefer Mishnah Teire Maschalasai, the connection of the end of the Rambam and the beginning. Not Chalasam B'Seifim with Chalasam. Huloirak im halacha rishon shel Sefer. The connection is not only in the first halacha of the Sefer. Shebishneim b'halacha rishon b'halacha achron v'duba bin yidiyas Hashem kanal. That's obvious. The connection is very clear. Leida is the first beginning of the Rambam, and the end of the Rambam is Deya. Deyas Hashem kamayim liyamachasim. Elagam im aposik oz liyevish v'pitakom etzesecha shebaschol Sefer mamish. The connection is to the very first words that the Rambam wrote on the Sefer, even before everything. Oz lo yevish. I don't know if the Rambam wrote this before the Akdama actually. Where does the words lo yevish go in? But Oz lo yevish v'viti. Was it written before the Akdama or before Hilchos Yisodei HaTorah? See, this is the mix. Before the Akdama, B'Shem Hashem Kei Lo'elam Oz lo yevish. Fundamental thing. When you learn Torah not only as an instrument, a source of information to know how you are to behave. It's the other way around. It's not about you, and the Torah is here to give you the information. On the contrary, your entity now takes in the information in order to become the real full expression. A witness is the one that expresses truth. Then now you can be the full entity of expression of the Eibishter's Ratzon in the world. And here we're not talking about a Ratzon for a purpose, a Ratzon to create a world, or a Ratzon that's leading to some other purpose, but we're talking about Ratzon Atzmi. That's what Chassidus always explains regarding mitzvahs. The Rebbe brings the Lashon of here in footnote 60, the Lashon of the Rebbe Rashab, famous Lashon. Ki yidua shekol ha-mitzvahs misyachsais el ha-atzmos. All mitzvahs is Atzmos, the Eibishter himself. Okay, so I'm going to get into the whole Hezbollah now, but there's different dargas of Ratzon. Chetzeni is a Ratzon, Pnimi is a Ratzon. The Ratzon of a mitzvah is not like any other Ratzon. It's a Ratzon which is expressing who the Eibishter is. And the Rebbe brings here another expression of the Friedrich Rebbe in a Maimer, Lahar Gam Sefer Amorim Tavshin. Inyan ha'edus, the Friedrich Rebbe there speaks about, it's a Pesach Maimer, Mo ha'edus ha'chukum v'mishpatim. So he says, what's the Inyan of edus? Hu al dover ha'nelam legamri. You only need testimony if there's something that's unknown. If something everyone knows, you don't need edus. Or even something that will eventually be exposed, you also don't need edus. You only need edus is something which is completely concealed, and that is b'chinas pnimis va'atzmis ein seif shalag ma'ila gam b'chinas seiviv. Seiviv is also connected to Elam. Seiviv kol almin. So here we're talking about the real inyan of edus to connect to the very essence of Torah. Okay, so the Rebbe concludes here in the Lashon of the Sikha. Hine al yidei zeh nifla inyan de bias ha-Mashiach. This brings Mashiach. Mashiach himself Etzem ha'inyan debias HaMashiach. Shalamayla mitikan ha'olam. This is the arrival of Mashiach himself before you get to the second point of Mashiach to change the world. In order 61, the Rebbe adds to this, V'yeshleima shezeh merum is gam b'mesha inyan the Yemais HaMashiach hu asiyim v'achaisim l'chol sefer Mishnah Torah. That this is also hinted in the fact that Yemais HaMashiach is the conclusion of the entire Sefer Rambam. Why? So simply, why did the Rambam put? Could have put it anywhere. Maybe Sefer Karbonis or Aveda, where the Rambam speaks about Aveda in the Beis Hamikdash, speak about the fact that Mashiach is going to come and rebuild the Beis Hamikdash. The Rambam chose to put it all the way at the end. Shalidei limud Sefer Zeh, because if you learned and got up from the beginning all the way to the end, into that the last halachis, the Rambam is saying, oh, you're going to arrive if the whole Klal Yisrael is going to learn Rambam like this. I don't know if I say that it's conditioned the whole Klal Yisrael, but if you learn Rambam, that brings you to Yemais HaMashiach. Yeah. Okay. Right, we should finish the Sikha.
Yeah.
Yesh lo haisef, Sif Yazayin. Yesh lo haisef, she'inyin ba'apiti al kol mitzvsecha, kosher lo yirak and klolis hilchas Mashiach shebesiyim HaSefer. This point of learning all of Rambam is not only connected to how the Rambam concludes with Mashiach, elegam im ha'alacha ha'achreina. In Hilchas Mashiach Gufa, the very last halacha, the siyim v'chaisim ha'sefer mamish, which is u'ba'isei azman, le'yisham, le'rava, le'melchama, le'kineh v'tachras. When Mashiach comes, there'll be no hunger, no war, no jealousy, or competition. Kudus abir b'zeh. What is the Rambam saying here? B'hadageh the limud ha'Torah b'tor emtzoi le'ezer inyan acher. When you learn Torah, and there's a certain objective you're trying to gain through your learning. Kamay fanim. There can be different things that a person is trying to gain in his learning. Umehem. Aleph, Leida, Samai, Sasha, Yasan. As mentioned before, you're learning because you need to know the mitzvahs. Here the point is, you're getting rid of a certain problem. Because if you're not going to learn, you're going to end up doing things that are forbidden. Or if you don't know the information of how do you fulfill a mitzvah, so then you end up doing the mitzvah not according to the halacha. Now, this kind of learning could be described as a learning similar to the nature of a war, which means what's the nature of a war? There's an opposing force that you're fighting, and you have to battle and defeat him. Over here as well, if a person is an Amma Oretz, you have to fight Amaratzis. You could learn Torah for that purpose, to literally fight Amaratzis and fight the issue of a person doing things confused with no knowledge. So this is sort of a battle to get rid of that condition and allow Torah to bring light into a person's life. A similar thing in this category of learning Torah, which is sort of similar to Al-Mulchama, is what the Gemara says, Barasi Yetzahara. Athebisha says, I created the Yetzahara. But Barasi Le Torah Tavlin, I also created a Torah which is a spice to deal with him. Limud Torah b'chdei lenatzeach as Mulchamas hayetza. You learn Torah gives you the power to defeat the Yetzahara. Nitzachim b'shleimus shemitavlin es hayetzahara gufim ha'pmois l'kedusha. Oh, so the Rebbe puts in, the Tavlin is the fact that not only that you eradicate the Yetzahara, but you transform it. Like when you spice up food, you don't throw out the food. You spice it up and then you're able to serve it and eat it and enjoy it. So this is one level in Torah. So here, this is a level of Torah which is serving a certain purpose. Now there's another level. You learn Torah because you want to bring peace in the world. Shlilas machlekes. It's a very great objective to get rid of machlekes. Shekol atayra nitna lasas shalom ba'olam. Third point, Gimel. Shalom hu gam lashon shleimus. Shalom doesn't only mean peace, meaning when there's a fight, an argument, but shalom means to bring the world to its perfection. The world is created, it's lacking. Torah brings a perfection to the world. So we have different defining in learning Torah. So here the Rebbe says a noob shot in the Rambam. When the Rambam says that when Mashiach comes, there'll be no hunger, there'll be no war, and there'll be no jealousy, what is the Rambam talking about? Not only Gashmi is the hunger, or Gashmi is the war, or jealousy. The Rambam is saying the nature of learning Torah in one of these three ways, of a war, or hunger, or jealousy, those details within learning Torah itself won't exist anymore. What does this mean? So v'nimtza,
competition.
Yeah, competition. V'nimtza shalimud Torah betur emtzai. When you learn Torah and there's a certain objective in the learning, kosher im echad mishleisha inyanim ela. So this learning is connected to one of these three things that are mentioned here. Oifenai Gimel, the third point mentioned, that you learn Torah to get rid of a certain lack that the world experiences, in Rav, Chesaron, hunger, when the world is lacking something. When you learn Torah, you bring the full perfection of the world. Then as mentioned, the first way of learning Torah is the battle of Torah, where you're fighting something. That the learning Torah is to deal with jealousy that there is in the world. So those all are levels of learning, which is applicable today. But learning Torah, where there's no objective of any of what was mentioned, but it's just to know everything of the Eibishter's Torah. The point there is not so that Torah should have any effect on anybody, on you or the world. The point is that you now become permeated fully with all of the Eibishter's Ratzon, and now you're a witness of Hashem. Your whole existence, you have no identity of your own. You just become a witness. This level of learning, what the Rebbe is basically concluding with here is, when you learn Rambam today, this is a me'en, a taste of what the limud HaTorah when Mashiach comes is going to be about, or what the nature of that learning is going to be. You're not going to have any of these things within Torah, in the nature of learning Torah. And the Rebbe adds in the order 66, what does Bulvad mean? The Pirish Ladas is Hashem Bulvad, Ushe'ini Ladas is Hashem Ubetaharasai, Beli Irvov Kavanat Nisefes. The knowledge of Hashem is not so that I can use it to do a mitzvah. It's just the knowledge of Hashem alone. Atzmos Mamash, Bulvad. That's the Bulvad.
Says, David kommt
Yeah, so it's not going to be not going to be any of those. The only thing will be just this, that you lose your identity. A person will lose his entire identity. And what will be the identity of the person? Just this, that he's an 8 for the Eibishter. What's this 8? That now I'm a full expression and revelation of who the Eibishter is. Accomplished, garnished. Correct.
Wow.